G'day guys, this week on Fat Rides Garage, we're back on the Falcon Coupe once more and we're into the IFS. G'day guys, welcome back to the channel, and apologise for the lengthy delay in getting a video up to you, but part of the reason was I was just waiting to sort out the front end of this coupe, and I'd basically done a fair bit of work on the sedan and then gone to the trouble of taking it off the rotisserie ready for the coupe, but we didn't quite get the information we needed in time, but now we've got it all pretty much sorted. And just going back over it, some of the issues that we were having with this front end, the IFS that we had made by United Speed Shop, was that it wasn't quite fitting where we needed it, and that really wasn't really anyone's fault. It was like a combination of issues. One of them being that the front end was made to go into a standard Falcon. They already had like an angle plate that sort of came down the side and then partially went in on top, and that was meant to sit directly on top of a standard Falcon chassis rail, whereas with this one here, a little bit customized, it's had a 3mm plate put over the top, the side and underneath, and that's obviously increased the width and the height of the chassis rails. And we had to do that because we were joining the Falcon chassis rail through to the Mustang chassis rail, and it was advised that we just run it right through because we knew that we were going to be mounting some sort of aftermarket IFS. So once I sort of figured that out, I realised that there was a discrepancy in width, and not so much width but the height. But that wouldn't have accounted for it all. That would have only accounted for maybe 3 or 4 mil, whereas what we were needing was to gain probably an extra 30 or 40 mil, because part of the problem was that the steering rack was, when it was in, like where the steering arm came out of the rack, when it was in a horizontal position, the boot was basically almost touching the bottom of the chassis rail, which meant that if you compressed the suspension completely, the steering arm would have actually hit the chassis rail. So in order to get a complete and a full travel on the suspension and keep the steering clear, we needed to lower the whole thing down. And another reason for doing that was in order to get the ABS set up on this car, we went with, I think he said he used a drop axle. So rather than a standard Falcon axle, he used a drop axle. And that was great because I needed to get the ABS set up. That's what I wanted. I wanted to have a completely integrated system from a Mustang. So we've ended up with our Brembo brakes and ABS system and whatnot, but it was the combination of the aftermarket cross member along with the drop axles, along with the adjustment to my chassis rails, which kind of like added a few problems to the situation. But we've got it all sorted. Initially we were going to put standard stub axles on to get away from that 2-inch drop, meaning that possibly when the steering arm came out of the steering rack, it would sort of go down a little bit to the stub axle rather than being up here. But then we realised that was only like a partial fit. These steering arms wouldn't have been horizontal at ride height, and plus we had other issues, like for example, it wasn't just the steering arms underneath the chassis rail, it was also, another one was the sump. So I noticed that the sump was down about 40 mil as well below the cross member. So when I added it all together and discussed it with Ryan, we came up with a solution to simply, instead of like changing stub axles, and we also talked about changing the mounting points here and actually lowering the mounting point for the rack and pinion. But as it turned out, Ryan just said to me, look, it's going to be a lot easier, and it's probably the correct way to do it in any case was to actually cut some material out of, actually we'll come around here, if we have a look here. So on this part here, what we've done is we've actually cut some material out of this section. So this would have been 40 mil high originally. So we've cut material out of that in order to bring the whole thing down. So it's brought the whole cross member down in the car lower. And what that's done is it's obviously given us a lower mounting point for the rack and pinion. And it's brought the cross member down so that it's in line with the sump. So we're not going to have to worry about bellying out the sump. And pretty much fixes all our problems. So that's what we've done, and I've gone ahead and mounted it in the car. I haven't completely fully welded it in yet, because the next thing that we've got to do is go ahead and refit the engine and gearbox, because now that we've dropped that, then the mounting points for the engine are going to be different. So we've got these engine mounts which United supplied us, and we've actually sort of chop them up a little bit because they have to be mounted not directly on top of the cross member, but they're just slightly behind it. So now that we've dropped the cross member, we're going to have to probably cut it through here and lift that up 40 mil, and then set it up so that we can bolt through and make it removable. So in the time being, yeah, that's what we're sort of waiting for. We'll go ahead and we'll get our engine and whatnot fitted up, and we'll take it from there. Are you aligned in the right place, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, this foot is blocked. This is more low. That little block should fit over the gearbox, so you've got to go up anyway.
Yeah.
So the engine and gearbox would actually go in really easy if we didn't have the crane on a 45-degree angle to the job.
Yeah.
It's just got to keep making adjustments, like left and out and left and out and down. And
Help if we had a good crane operator.
sorry?
It would help if we had a good crane operator.
Yeah, that's what they were saying about you when you were in it.
So the King's unavailable to drive, so mate.
Maybe we need to look at the employees who have them.
Nah, there's nothing wrong with him, mate. Huh?
What did he say?
Maybe we need to look at the employees because they're all crap.
Alright, let's give me one of them, I'll get a socket and I'll give you the rattle gun.
Have a dig. Can I let this down now, just so I can get them on there?
Yeah.
Snipped up anyway, so it's...
Yeah, I've got a block under it too, so... Give them a buzz. this side. Rightio, let's have a look. So, I'm going to need to take it off the crane, so basically just need to line it up like I did before, whereas before I just had like some blocks and some padding and stuff and actually sat it on the sump and it didn't appear to do any damage at all. So
You don't put that jack under it?
sorry?
You don't put that jack under there? Underneath? To hold it where you need it, or
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it wouldn't hurt, yeah.
then you can move it up and down?
Yeah. So that would come right through to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that got the way?
Yeah, it's done a little bit.
Yeah, okay. Alright, let the crane down. That way. Can you just gently kick the bottom of that? Just gently.
That way?
Yeah, across. Keep going. Gotta go about another 20 mil. More. Whoa. Hold it. That's like 325. 345. Give us another 10 mil. That's pretty close for now. We can play around with it a bit more later. The other thing I'd like to do is get, the level, but it's really hard to do that because there's like hardly anything you can put a level on. Just go across maybe the bottom of it. That's showing me that it needs to twist that way.
Side up a bit.
Yeah, no, that side down a little bit. Oh no, you won't get it out of that. No, you won't get it out of that. It's right here in the engine, look.
Oh,
Yeah. I won't worry about it for now. You can let that go because that's just going to sink anyway.
Yep.
It's like it's probably designed to be that way. It'll stay up for the first 2 days and then after that it just loses its guts. Yeah. Someone like Blake made it in China. It's Chinese version of Blake.
Chinese Blake.
That's all fucked up.
Reckon that's a frightening
That's what
thought,
it is.
Says his punctuality would be in a concentration camp over there.
What time are you getting this morning?
6:15.
Why'd you get here 6:15?
Because some idiot decided to drive their car into someone else's.
Oh, it's someone else's fault, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
We were here on time.
Wait, no, it said
All you had to do is come to work, but you got dramas doing that too.
it said on the internet a truck and a car collided. I bet ya it was a mud truck.
Okay.
What 30-year-old man can't get to work on time?
I'm not 30. Mate, don't worry. Wait until Tom puts his video up and everyone will be able to see a Devon that's starting to come up.
Mine.
I got good pictures of that.
All right, well, we've got it sort of sitting basically where it needs to be, and I've gone ahead and fitted up the steering rack, which you can see now has got plenty of clearance underneath the chassis rail. And another thing which is good, and I was kind of hoping on, but I wasn't sure, was this air conditioning unit. And in the original position we had it in, there was no way that I could have that air conditioning unit and the steering rack at the same time, because the steering rack was just basically going to butt up underneath it. So now we've got enough clearance to fit that, which is great, because I didn't want to really have to have a remote pump compressor or whatever. It still looks like I'm not going to be able to fit the alternator in its original position though, so we're just going to well, at the moment it looks like I'm probably going to have to go for one of those aftermarket kits where they reverse the alternator and it goes up here, so it's facing back in to catch the belt. And that's well, one place that makes them is Power by the Hour, so that's one kit that I'm looking at. But yeah, so far looking okay. Another thing that we had to do, because we lowered the thing down and there was hardly any clearance with the coilover, is that I've just put just a slight scallop in the side there, and that's just to allow for that, you know, just clearance for that coilover when it's in the full droop position. It may not have needed it when it was like at ride height, but when it was at full droop it probably would have interfered, like fouled up against the chassis rail. Yeah, so that's all looking all right. So I'm just going to move on and start mocking up the engine mounts. Now I've got the engine pretty much located where I need it. I've got to work on these engine mounts. So I've actually jumped ahead and I've done this first mount. So basically what I did is I just cut the top off, mounted it to the engine, and then put this base plate in the position that I want it to be in, and then just measured the difference between them, and in this case it was approximately 30 mil. So I went ahead and added some flat bar in and welded it all together, and it's not looking too bad. So that'll get blasted and epoxy coated, and now I've just got to jump onto this passenger side one and do the same thing. So now I've cut that mount in two, and as you can see, mounted the top part to the engine and the bottom part to the base plate. There's a bit of a gap, and it's somewhere in the vicinity of around 30 mil. And I've got two pieces of steel which I've cut to shape to fill in the gap. So what I'm going to do while everything's in position is go ahead and tack them in, and then remove the whole assembly and then weld it on the bench. Well, that went fairly well, I guess. As you can see, I've left a pretty decent gap between the steel, and that's just so that I can get a really good penetration. As you can see, that's penetrated right through, so that should be the case with the rest of it once I fully weld it, which will be good. So I'll just go ahead and disassemble this now. I've got to pull the the bushing out of there so that it doesn't burn, obviously, and then I'll go ahead and weld this thing up and get it linished, and we'll come back to you. Okay, so I've taken these outside and blasted them, and I think they're looking alright. I'm actually fairly pleased. They've come up better than I thought. What bothered me about chopping these things and sort of adding bits of steel and everything was all of these shapes that had been cut in prior, and not sort of knowing if I was going to be able to avoid them, and I did. I was able to sort of just avoid that top hole, so I'm able to sort of keep the look as such, so that's really good. So I'll go ahead, hang them in the booth, get some epoxy on them, and they'll be ready to bolt in. Alright, so I've got these things all painted up, and got the bushes in, so I'm going to go ahead and assemble them and see if it all looks good in regard to fitting the engine to this cross member. Good. I like it. so that's all ready to get tacked into place, but I think what I'll do is I'll put the other side on first, and as long as that looks good, I'll come back and I'll tack it in. You don't even know what we need when we ask you.
I'm a genius, alright?
Can you grab the extractors then, genius?
What are they?
You ready, Hayden?
Yeah.
Got to be creative. So just hold it there, don't move it.
I'm moving it.
Now just your end up a touch. Down a touch. Yep. Okay, so we've managed to get the engine mounts mocked up and tacked into place, and everything's fitting fairly well. We've got the extractors bolted in and they're not fouling up on anything. We've got the air conditioner in, and the rack and pinion is set in such a place that we've got plenty of travel for the steering arms. And from the looks of it, even though, you know, it's a tight space, I think we'll be alright when it comes to putting our steering shaft through. It's probably going to need to have a uni, probably just up, you know, just outside where the extractors are, but that's probably about it. So all in all, I think it's coming along good. I'm really glad that I was able to reuse those extractors too, because it's a nice set of American headers, so pretty cool. American racing headers, made in the USA with a big USA flag. Not that makes it run any better, but you know, better than China, right? Cool, let's get the crane and lift it down, put it on the ground. Alright guys, that's it for this episode. Before I go, I just wanted to bring up the t-shirts and get your opinion on them. So as some of you would know, we've had the Fat Fords t-shirts, the black t-shirts with the red coupe and Fat Fords logo, and I've still kept that running. And then sort of a while ago, as you would also know, I changed the name of the channel to Fat Rides Garage just so that it would make more sense if I wanted to build Chevys and whatnot. So anyway, just wanted to see if any of you would be interested in these t-shirts, the Fat Rides Garage. The one that I've got obviously has no picture of a car or anything, it's just the logo. I wasn't sure about the cartoon pictures, to be honest. I thought maybe I'd ask the rest of you guys and get your opinion and your feedback. But I have been thinking about making this t-shirt available online, so give us your feedback and let us know what you think. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode, where I'm probably going to be concentrating on putting some mock-up wheels on this coupe and lifting it down onto the ground and then seeing how it sits on its suspension. So we'll catch you next time.